Hey, what's up everyone? I am going to show you today how you write your own script for final expense telesales. You can email me at jve@thejve.com if you want a copy of my script, but I'm going to show you in this the step-by-step process that I went through to write a script for myself. Subscribe to my channel, turn on post notifications, like the video, and drop a comment. At the very least, subscribe to my channel. Okay, so when you write a script, the first thing that you have to do is you have to know the steps of the sales process. So in my script, what I really do is I break down the steps of the sales process. And every good telesales script I've ever seen, what it really does is it breaks down the steps of the sales process and it brings the client through the road to the sale. Now, when you're face-to-face with a client, it's kind of like a natural order of events. Like you show up, you ask them some questions, you present the product to them, you give them some prices. But on the phone, you have to be very conscious that you are going through these steps in the right order and you're not skipping steps. So you have to write a script to keep yourself on track and in the right direction so you don't go too far off in a direction that's not even pertaining to the sale. So a script is extremely important. Now, I'm going to tell you this, that there are many scripts out there. There are plenty of good scripts out there. There are bad scripts out there, but what's more important is that you learn one. I would rather have someone memorize a bad script than just wing it. So I'd rather have someone memorize and use a poor script than just wing it every time. Because when you wing it, it's very easy to skip. It's very easy to skip steps of the sales process. It's very easy to not stay on the path you need to. It's very easy to skip steps. It's very easy to get pulled off of the sales process. It's very easy to just let the client dictate the path that you're going to take. So when you write a script, you want to commit to it and you want to memorize it and you want to get it down almost to where it's just already scripted in your brain and you have it down. So what I'm going to do first is break down the different steps that you need to go through in the road to the sale, and you need to cover these in your script. So number one is the introduction. Number two is the fact finding or the question, the intelligence gathering section, the part where you ask questions and qualify the client. Number three is the presentation and the product selection and demonstration, or where you appraise their current coverage. That's kind of mixed in there too, appraisal of what they have now. So for instance, you do a policy review on what they already have for coverage. Then you present the product, the features, advantages, and benefits on how it's going to solve the problems that you learned about in the fact finding. Then you go through the quote and negotiation in the close, and then the application process, and then the follow-up. So you want to make sure that all these steps are laid out in order. Now, I will put these steps in a document in the description of the video that you'll be able to access so that you can actually go through these one by one and make sure that when you write your script, you're hitting all of these points. You also want to have your rebuttals scripted. So you're going to run into objections in the greeting and in the close. Those are the two most common places to run into pushback and resistance, right when you call people and at the end when you ask for the sale. You want to have canned objections and canned rebuttal responses to these objections. By canned, I mean memorized, like in your head and written down so that you can just come back real quick and you'll be able to answer those objections quickly and efficiently without losing confidence from the prospect that you don't know what you're talking about. So you want to write these down. I have a rebuttals website that has a bunch of different rebuttals on there. Also, you can check out my video of how I cover every single objection in final expense telesales, and you can use some of those. But whatever you use, whatever works for you, have them written down, because if it's written down and it's in a simple form, it's very easy to memorize it and it's easy to regurgitate it. So you want to have them written down. I recommend having those written down at your desk as well. Be prepared in the greeting and the close for when people give you pushback. So in addition to having your script, you want to have your rebuttals written down too and your answers to overcoming objections. So you really want to write out your script in a full and concise way and follow these steps that I have here. So the first thing that we're going to go over is the greeting. So I found that in the greeting, there are a couple tips here. I'm not going to tell you what to say exactly because I want you guys probably want to write your own. When I get into it, I wanted to write my own script and I wanted to use someone else's script, but I also wanted to write my own. So that's what the point of this video is to help you guys in your creativity in writing your own script. So in the greeting, there are a few basics that I want to cover here. First off, when someone answers, I wouldn't use any last names. I wouldn't use the last name. When you call someone in the greeting, I wouldn't use your last name and I wouldn't use the client's last name. Now, the reason for that is no one cares what your last name is. I would only use a last name if you're famous and if people know about you. And you do not want to address the client with their last name because it comes off as very salesy. Okay, you want to come off as impersonal. When you use the client's last name, it comes off as very salesy. So for instance, say the guy's name is Bob Jones, and I'm like, hey, is Mr. Bob Jones available? That's very, very salesy. It's like you almost know that someone's calling to sell you something if you talk to them like that. So all I say is, hi, Bob. In your greeting, I recommend that's all you say. Hi, and then their first name with an upswing in tonality. So right when they answer, hi, Bob. Yes. Hey, Bob, it's Justin. How you doing today? So I recommend that you use that line in the beginning there. Now, in the beginning, you don't want to, I wouldn't say the company that you're calling from right away. I would say, hey, how you doing today? And they answer. There are going to be plenty of sales gurus out there that are going to say, oh, don't you say that in the greeting. I would like to see if they've ever sold final expense before. Right? I like to ask people how they're doing. I like to talk to them about the weather. Our clients like to do that. We have a unique clientele. I don't care what anyone says, our business is different. And a lot of sales guys say, I don't care what anyone says, every business is the same. I promise you it's not. Final expenses is a unique clientele. So I just say, hey, Bob. Yep. Hey, Bob, this is Justin. How you doing today, man? And then he answers, and I say, well, that's great. Thank you. And if he asks me how I'm doing, thanks for asking. I'm doing well, too. And I say, the reason for my call is that, so this is where you bring in the justifier. Okay, they call it a justifier. So after you introduce yourself real quick, then you get into a justifier. So you tell them why you're calling. Okay, say who you represent, the company you represent. Say why you're calling. Either they talked to someone and it's a callback lead and they mentioned that they wanted a callback, or they filled out a form off of YouTube, or they filled out a form off of Facebook, or they went online and they filled out a form somewhere, or whatever it is. You want to use the justifier as the reason for my call is that you did this. Now you want to use a tone, and you want to, every time you make a call, you want to treat it like it's the only call you're making that day. So if you're making a ton of phone calls, don't treat every call like it's one in a million. One of a million. You want to treat it like it's your only call for the day, and you want to come off that way to your client. So say the reason, for example, say it's a YouTube lead. The reason for my call is that someone from this number, or someone with this number, requested some information off YouTube. And I'm here to follow up and get that information over to them with regards to the state-approved final expense burial programs. And they mentioned that their whatever favorite color, favorite hobby, whatever it may be. Does that ring a bell? So you can do it in a little less words than that, and I'm kind of just going off the top of my head here. But that's kind of how you want it. You want it very short, very concise. So you want to say, the reason for my call is that, and you want to have a good tone with it too. You don't just say, and the reason for my call is that a little while back you requested some information. You say, and the reason for my call is that a little while back, or just the other day, someone from this number. Now, I recommend that you don't say, you did this. I recommend you don't say, you filled out a form and requested this information. I like to say, someone with this number requested this information, or requested this, or took this action, and that's why I'm calling you back. And then you want to mention something in the lead form. So, and they mentioned that their zip code was this. Does that ring a bell? They mentioned that their email was this, their favorite color was this, their favorite hobby was this. Does that ring a bell? You want to say, does that ring a bell? Not, do you remember, did you do that? Does that ring a bell? It's a very, very unique word track, but use that one. So that's kind of how you want to have your greeting structured, all right? Now at this point, they're going to hit you with some objections. They're going to hit you with, I already have insurance, I already did that, I already took care of it, I don't have time, I'm not interested, I don't remember, that wasn't me. Be ready to handle these things as they come up. These aren't real objections, so keep that in mind, and you want to write that in your script somewhere. Objections here are not real. Objection here, everyone is a lie. You want to treat it all like lies. Now, I'm not saying that everyone's going to lie, and there are plenty of people we talk to who have insurance or aren't interested, truly aren't interested. They just filled it out for whatever reason. And there are plenty of people who will never buy insurance who fill out lead forms. But what we want to do is first treat it as something that's not real. We want to first treat it as something that is fear-based. So make sure you handle it that way. Just they're like, I already have insurance. You want to have this written down in your script too. If they already have insurance, hey, no worries. I completely understand. Listen, most people I speak with have it, and I'm not asking you to make any changes. Don't worry. And then you go right back to the script. right back to it and ask a question about the lead form. So have those pre-canned responses ready. Write out a response for each of those things that you run into. Anytime you run into an objection you can't overcome, think of 1 or 2 responses to it, 1 or 2 rebuttals, write them down and have those at your desk, ready to handle it next time. So that's how you go through the greeting. Now, assuming you get through the greeting and they give you some pushback and they let you roll through it, now we go into the body of the presentation. We go into the fact-finding. So here in the fact-finding is where we really ask questions to the client about what qualifies them for the product, but also what qualifies them in our eyes. So it's a mix between qualifying them for the product and then building rapport. The fine line is somewhere in the middle there. So we ask these questions to qualify them. Like somewhere in the body of your fact finding, you want to ask them some health questions. You want to have a general idea what their health is. You want to be asking them if they're the decision maker. You want to be asking them if they have an active checking or savings account. You want to be asking them what they want it for, what they wanted the policy for, or like what the purpose of this program would be. You want to ask them if they already have insurance. If they already have insurance, you want to get things like the premium, the benefit amount, the carrier. You want to call the other company if they have a policy and they don't know exactly what they have. I always recommend policy reviews too, because people think they know what they have a lot of time and they don't actually know what they have. You also want to be asking questions that relate to them and them on a personal level. So you can have a justifier for that as well. You can say, hey, look, I'm going to ask you some questions here just to see if you qualify for any additional discounts. How long have you lived at the home you're in now? Right? That's like a popular thing for renter's insurance or homeowner's insurance. So that's like a question that people are used to hearing. How long you live there? And they'll say. And then that opens up for the rapport building side of the fact finding. Now it really doesn't matter how long they've lived there, right? That doesn't matter. But what we're doing is we're trying to look for things to talk to them about so that they can get to know us and like us. So you want to ask these questions and intertwine these questions in there in your script so that you can ask them about anything insurance based to qualify for the program, but you also have to qualify yourself as someone that they would want to work with in their mind. If you notice, I bet most of your good sales, your easy sales, came from people who really liked you. So the point here is to get someone to like you, and you don't really get someone to like you by asking them how sick they are and what they want this to do when they die. You get someone to like you by talking to them about their grandkids, or maybe what their town is like, or what the weather's like today, or what their hobbies are, or what they used to do for work, praising them that they're in retirement. So you want to intertwine these questions and, what did you used to do for work? What do you do for work? I love to ask, what do you do for work? Because if someone's 75, they're like, oh, I'm retired. They're like, wow, man, that's so cool. What'd you do to get that lucky? You must have worked hard. It ain't. There's no luck in it, isn't there? So intertwine these questions in your fact finding. Remember, you want to be establishing some basic things here, some elements of a one-call close. I talk about this in another video, the elements of a one-call close. One-call close, they have to be the decision maker. They have to have access to their payment information. They have to be able to afford it. You can tell that if you ask them what they do for fun and what they do with their grandkids or their kids or whatever. If they do like some extracurricular activities that cost a couple bucks, you know they got expendable income. You want to make sure that they have a reason to buy it and they got to kind of like you. So this is the fact finding here is where we qualify for them and we really ramp up and we find that there's a problem. You really want to drill into the why here and have some follow-up questions here. And the point of this is to ask questions in the fact-finding that can eliminate any objections that you get at the end. So if you go for the close and you find these objections, certain objections are coming up, talk to my spouse, talk to my kids, there's probably some questions that you can ask in the fact-finding to help eliminate that at the end. Because if they pull that up at the end, it's kind of like a scapegoat a lot of times. It's just a smokescreen that they don't trust you. That's usually what it comes down to. It's a smokescreen that they don't trust you. Most people don't need to consult someone to spend $50 to $100 a month. So after we've established all those things in the fact finding, then you move on to the presentation part. That's the next step in the sales process, the presentation. Now in the presentation and demonstration, this is where we present, it's a benefits-based presentation, not features. Features is what it is. So features is like, the pen is blue. It's a feature. It's a blue pen. That's what it is. The benefit is that, hey, it sticks out more when you write it than the black pen. And actually, it's been proven that colors, your mind retains colors more than black and white. Like your colors other than black and white, your mind will retain it better. So that's a benefit. So if like, hey, the blue pen's $5, the black pen is $2, why would I pay $5 for a blue pen instead of $2 for a black pen? Well, look, use the blue pen, there's a better chance you're gonna retain it. So are you writing anything that you gotta remember? Oh yeah. Cool, extra $3, you're gonna remember it better. So when you pertain to insurance, what we're doing here is we're presenting the features in a way that's a benefit. So a benefit-based presentation. So What I mean by that, example, whole life policy. Say the client qualifies for whole life policy. Well, whole life policy, the benefit is that it's permanent. The feature is that it's a whole life. The benefit for the client is, hey, look, while everything else is going up in price in the world with inflation, you can rest assured that once you lock this in, your life insurance is not going to go up in price. Benefit, it has cash value in a whole life policy. Now that builds up like a rainy day fund. So if one summer comes along, it's really hot and your AC kicks out, or you want a rainy day fund to take the grandkids somewhere, you know you got some money sitting aside right there. So what you want to do is think about whatever the problem they told you they want to solve, and you have to custom tailor each of the features of the plan to solve that problem. So you want to have a list of the features, advantages, and benefits of the product that you sell. And advantage is what separates it from the competition. So in your presentation, you want to make sure so in the fact finding, let me go back for a second. In the fact finding, they explain to you what they want. If they want it for a funeral, you're not going to be pitching a whole life to cover a cremation or leave behind money as a gift, right? If they want to leave it behind to a charity, or a grandson just to have some extra cash, you're not going to be like, well, this is going to cover your funeral when you die, No, so you're asking those questions, and then you present the parts of the plan that solve the problem that they told you they have in the beginning. You're trying to create an airtight argument here, and it's logical and emotional. So you want to touch on the logical and emotional parts of the features, advantages, and benefits in your script. So you want to have columns in these. What I have is I have a chart, and I have like whole life, right? I have the feature, advantage, and benefit. And when you paint a picture of how it's going to help their family, then that's kind of hits the emotional side, and it can make it logical too. Logical is whole life. You're never going to have to worry about this going up in price. Emotional is, look, one day we're all going to die. You will never have to worry about doing this ever again. Once you do this, that monkey is off your back forever. You are relieved of this burden. Your family's relieved of this burden for good. That's the emotional side. The logical side. See, so you want to touch on both sides there, the logical and the emotional, on how to solve their problem. So you want to put this in your script. What I would do in the presentation part, you can either write these things out, or you can have a chart. That way with the different carriers' products, you can just look and explain them in a way, however your mind works best for you. I'm giving you guys the template, the outline here. But in your presentation, what you're really doing is you're formulating an argument of why this is the program they should go with. And you want to make it sound as if, look, we should have done this 6 months ago. You should have done this years ago. If you had known me, you would have had this handled a long time ago. You want to make it make that much sense in your presentation, where the only logical thing would have been to do it a while back, and have it already been done. So you want to build value that exceeds the premium that we're going to ask. So in the presentation, this is really important. Do not just brush over, oh, it's a whole life, it's got a terminal illness benefit, and kicks in the day you make your first payment, because that's a feature. And when you present features without attaching the benefits and the advantage, so what separates from other competitive carriers, when you attach a feature without talking about the benefits and the advantages, people just think it costs more money. They don't understand that all that stuff is included for free, and if that's the case, they don't understand the value of it. So if you went to you go to a car dealership and you're like, I want the Honda. And they're like, this Honda Civic, and they're like, cool, well, we're going to show you the fully loaded one. The first thing you think of is it costs more money. Now, the job of the salesperson is to build value to justify the price of the fully loaded compared to the stripped down. Okay, now we get into the quoting. So we have gone through I'm going to recap here. You have written down the greeting. Okay, you've written down your greeting, your introduction. You've handled any objections that come up then. You've written down some questions. You brought the client through some questions that qualify for them for the product in a sale, but also qualify you in their mind by building that rapport. You have found out what they have now and what exactly they have now for insurance. You have presented if products, features, advantages, and benefits, whatever you feel they best qualify for. You presented the features, advantages, and benefits of that product to create an airtight argument. After we present the airtight argument, what we do is we move into the close. We move into the quoting part. So you want to always ask someone to grab a pen and piece of paper. You can even put in your script in the presentation or in the fact finding for them to grab a pen and piece of paper, so you can give them your name, your email, or even send your phone number, send them a digital business card if you want to do that. You can put that somewhere in the beginning, like in the fact finding. One of the parts of the fact finding, you can put that there. Now, what this is going to do is it's a pen test. It's a compliance test. So you're really evaluating, like, hey, is this person actually going to go do something for me? Because if they're not going to go get a pen, they're not going to buy a policy for me. They're not going to go get their checkbook. They're not going to give you their social. They're not going to go up and get their pills. So if you haven't done that yet, when you're in the quote, say, hey, grab a pen and piece of paper. I'm going to go over some rates with you. Also, here I like to ask a trial close. So a trial close is just testing the water. So now you've gone through the whole thing, and you can ask some questions to test the water. Like, so based on everything I went over, do you like it? Does it feel like this would be a good fit for your family, if assuming that you got everything to work out, fine, numbers-wise? You can ask that, and they may say yes or no or whatever. But you're just testing the water to see if they like it. Okay, so it's totally okay to ask those questions. Now you go into the quoting and the quoting part of it. Now in the quoting part, I like to give people 4 options. So give them the max coverage amount and then 3 other options. So the max coverage is, hey, this is the most amount of life insurance that you can qualify for with this company. And then 3 other options around like 60 to 70 bucks a month, 80 to 100 bucks a month, and then like a little over 100 bucks a month. And then the max coverage. So you have them write down the max and then 3 other options. You want to make sure that they have them written down. Okay? And I would not give change. Like if it's like $189.20, just do like $189. So you want to have however you want to do it. I don't know how you do it, if you did face-to-face or however you feel comfortable you doing it. I'm giving you a template here. This is how I have mine structured, and I would structure yours the same. Have them grab a pen, have them write down some options, ask them which fits best. Now you want to have, at the end, next part of your script, you want to have 2 parts. You want to have, hey, if they say yes to a coverage amount, which direction do I go in? And then if they say no, which direction do I go in? So for the yes part, you want to have just a general list of questions that every single application needs. Okay, applications pretty much all need the same thing. Some do need a driver's license. That's like the exception. But other than that, they all pretty much ask for the same thing. Okay. Now, next part, I would go into the option 2 is if they say no, or they give you pushback, which is the more likely option. More likely options are going to give you some objections here. So you want to write down those objections that you're going to get. And you want to write down responses to them. Talk to other people you know. Reach out to me. You can use my rebuttals page. You can steal my stuff if you want. Watch my rebuttals video. You'll be able to handle any objections that you need to by watching the video that comes up right here on the top of the screen. I'm also going to put it at the end of this video. But if you watch this, then that's going to come up for you. Okay? So watch that, and you can take any of the rebuttals that I have on there and use them. So you want to have a section where I just go right into the application, and then a section where you handle any objections, and hopefully you transition into the application from there. So next, after you make the sale, or if you don't, you want to have follow-up. So you want to have a follow-up section of your script as well. So you want to make sure that you write, if you make the sale, to have a thank you letter, you text the client, and you follow up with them. And I always like to have a follow-up section on the script because it helps me set my schedule in advance. Like, hey, I have to follow up with this person tomorrow because they either bought or didn't buy. Or red alert, this person is right on the edge of buying and I have to follow up with them. At the very least, if you make a sale, make sure you send them a thank you letter and a final wishes planning guide. So that's really the outline of the script. You always want to reaffirm and seal the deal, reaffirm that they did the right thing. So when it comes to writing a script, you really want to learn the steps of the sales process. I have a document in the description that also outlines the steps of the sales process. So look at that, use that as a template as you're writing your script, and make sure you're checking off each of those things, because that's the road to the sale. You don't want to mix the steps up. You don't want to get them confused. When you have your script down, say it to yourself, say it record it to yourself, read it to a friend, read it to a colleague, and be like, hey, how does this sound? Is there anything you think I should change that doesn't sound right? And you want to master this, and you want to get your tonality down too, because tonality is extremely important in these things. So if you have any questions about writing a script, just email me at jve@thejve.com. I'd be more than happy to give you any input on what's worked for me and what hasn't based on what you have written. Look, I hope I was able to help you guys build your own script, because when I got into it, everyone threw a script at me, but I also wanted to build my own. Thank you. If you look up here, you're going to see a video, and this video is where I cover every single objection in final expense telesales. Any objection that could possibly come up. So watch this video,